Hello, welcome to the May 8th edition of This Week in South Carolina in Session. I'm Gavin Jackson outside the State House here in Columbia. Well, it was a surprisingly slow day up here at the State House on Tuesday, the third to last day of the legislative session up here. We did see House lawmakers stay in session for a good bit today, but the senators are still in session right now. They're currently debating an opioid-related bill, but we did see some major action in the Senate today, more so than we did in the House, and that's because we saw Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey put two utility reform bills in key special order positions. Now, you remember what special orders, that gives them the ability to debate these bills before any other bills on the Senate floor. And two of those bills right now that they put in special order, one deals with repealing the Base Load Review Act. That's the controversial 2007 law that allowed SCE&G to charge customers for building the VC Summer nuclear project that has since failed. This bill would allow lawmakers to repeal that controversial law and prevent any other utilities from using it going forward. Also, we saw another bill being put into special order, and that would create the consumer utility advocate. So they would be able to basically represent the consumers, the customers, on their behalf during rate increases, for example, that go before the Office of Regulatory Staff and other regulators. So that bill is still also working its way through the Senate now. These are two bills that, again, have passed the House. They passed the House very early this year. That was a big complaint of House lawmakers, is that the Senate really kind of didn't move very fast on these bills, and now we are seeing that they are indeed moving fast on them, even though there are only 2 days left in the legislative session. So things get a little bit more crazier, but there's still the ability for lawmakers to take these two bills up, specifically after session ends at 5 p.m. on Thursday. That's thanks to the sine die resolution that House lawmakers passed today over to the Senate to allow for certain bills such as VC Summer and the budget to be taken up after session ends on Thursday. And we did see some more activity over in the House as well, with lawmakers taking up two bills that would, or one bill specifically that would allow them to count marching band as physical education credits in high school. This bill's been kind of contentious a little bit over the past few weeks, but it's finally moved. It was briefly amended in the House and now goes back to the Senate for their approval. And we also saw in the Senate Senator Shane Massey take up that superintendent of education bill that would put the issue before voters as to whether they want the governor to choose the superintendent of education going forward. Currently, voters choose the superintendent of education, and now this potential ballot referendum that is about one step away from getting to the governor's desk would ask voters whether they would want to do that starting in 2023. So whether the governor should choose that position. So a lot did happen today, and a lot more is expected to happen. Like I said, the Senate is still in session, but let's start off in the Senate right now with that discussion about those utility reform bills that are now set in special order.
And when we call these the Base Load Review Act, you would agree that this is the issue that most people have been talking about. It's not a scanner bill, but it's directed somewhat to the issue that we've had looming over in this body for the entire year that you've been in chair of one of the committees, correct?
Yes, sir. Senator, this one actually is the Base Load Review Act. This one is. It deals with, it's a prospective repeal. And as you may recall from committee, we really narrowed it down from what the House did to it, because they had an interim rate in there and some other stuff. So what this bill has now is a prospective repeal of the entire act, along with some definitional changes to prudent and imprudent. And that's what it does.
And just for the folks that are listening, when you say prospective, tell us what you mean by prospective.
Well, from now on. So basically,
this point forward,
there have been two applications filed under the Base Load Review Act. One of them is related to VC Summer. There was another related that Duke filed related to a potential plant in the upstate. This would say that there can be no more applications filed under the Base Load Review Act. Right. It would create a dedicated consumer advocate within, as it came out of judiciary, within the Department of Consumer Affairs, which would allow the consumer advocate to receive notice and intervene in any action before the PSC that affects customers' rates regarding regulated utilities.
And like I said, the House did take up that sine die resolution, which deals with what bills they can take up after 5 p.m. on Thursday, May 10th. Remember, Thursday is the last day of the 2018 legislative session, which means any bill that's not passed by either chamber to the governor's office for his signature is dead for the year. And lawmakers will have to refile those bills next January and start the entire legislative process over. However, the sine die resolution allows lawmakers to take up certain bills such as the budget and such as VC summer related bills, conference committee reports, and more after that deadline. So we heard from House Speaker Jay Lucas on the House floor today, kind of outlining, giving us an idea about what specific things lawmakers can do and when they expect to do them. And remember that the budget is still working through the conference committee process right now. We saw the conference committee meet on Monday very briefly for about 15 minutes, where we saw both House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Brian White and Senate Finance Committee Chairman Hugh Leatherman say that they don't expect that budget to get out of conference committee this week. In fact, conference committee probably won't meet again until next week. So here is House Speaker Jay Lucas talking a little bit more about those details and when we might see them taking out the budget in its entirety. Here we go.
This resolution will allow us to return after May the 10th, but only for some very, very specific reasons, and I want to talk about those reasons. The sine die resolution this year, Ms. Cobb-Hunter, is divided into three parts. Usually it's divided into two parts, but if you'll recall, we had some problems last year, and those problems stemmed from shortening the session. I'm sure everybody remembers that. We were going to come back and do vetoes on a certain date. Because we shortened the session, we actually had to come back and do the budget on the date we were supposed to do vetoes. So what I've done in this sine die resolution is try to think ahead and give us a plan where we can have a time to do the budget, give the Senate, which we heard from a lot on that, some certainty when we can come back and do vetoes, and last but not least, give the House the ability to come back and deal with any issues that it needs to deal with under this sine die resolution. Now Section B, it deals with the first time period that we can come back, May 23rd to May 24th. During this time period, the House can deal with these specific matters and these specific matters only. Bills that fund the ordinary expenses of state government. Well, obviously we want that in there because we want the ability to come back and deal with the budget. We can come back and modify the sine die resolution. We can certainly issue resolutions of sympathy, local legislation, so long as it is unanimous. We can take up conference and free conference reports, which we often do. Elections, the sine die resolution also provides that we can come and take up VC summer related matters. I heard from both sides of the aisle that they did not want our efforts with the VC summer crisis in Jenkinsville to die, that we wanted our ability to come back, and if the Senate took up our bills, to be able to come up and take up that issue. And last but not least, we can deal with appointments during that first period. And Mr. Caskey, that period is May 23rd, May 24th. Generally, we can come in and do that in one day. We have 2 days, however, scheduled for that. Section C, under Section B, deals with the time period from June 13th to June 15th. We can do all of the things that I previously stated above. In addition to that, we can do vetoes, we can do elections, and we can deal with the conformity issue. And
we also heard from senators today about how they were complaining about how the House is not taking up their bills. There's several kind of, it's almost a game of chicken out there on the Senate and the House floors, but this isn't the first time we heard lawmakers complaining about what appears to be inaction in the State House. Remember earlier in the year when we did hear from House lawmakers who took to a press conference in the middle of the State House to call out their Senate colleagues to pass such utility reform bills that are now moving through the Senate. So a little bit of back and forth, but we heard from Senator Vincent Shaheen, Democrat from Camden, on the Senate floor today, kind of calling out his colleagues over in the House, especially over a bill that he wants to see move, his bill that would prohibit drones from being flown over state prisons.
Were you aware that I'm very concerned about letting any House bills out of this chamber right now, passing any? Are you aware of that?
Well, if that's the case, I'm not sure we're going to move much.
Well, I know. Did you aware that there are Senate bills on the House calendar that they've been carrying over day after day for the last 2 weeks that they have assured members they're going to pass, but they haven't passed?
I have heard that, and
I'm telling you that. Senator from Sumter informed me of that just a few minutes ago, including a bill that would ban drones from flying over prisons and dropping contraband in and risking the lives of our guards. Are you aware of that? Officers, thank you.
I am aware now.
Andy said to Barney one time, "You got a way with words."
A way with words.
Yeah, you do. But The point I was going to make was that this body, the Senate, is supposed to be, did you know, the deliberative body. We're supposed to slow things down, look at things, discuss things. And we know we all get in lengthy discussions sometimes. It seems like at the end of every 2-year session, we get compressed down to the witching hour where everybody tries to run things through here the last 2 or 3 days of session really quickly.
And like I said, House lawmakers did move back a bill to the Senate, that would allow for high school students in marching band to count their time in marching band as physical education credits. Now, this is not entirely new. The ROTC students can do this. It's been something that's been on the books since 1996 for ROTC students, and this would just pertain to marching band students. It wouldn't pertain or allow students that participate in sports such as football or baseball or any other sports to count those as physical education credits, rather just marching band. It was lightly amended today just to make sure that students who do count marching band for PE credits still get the entire curriculum that students that take normal PE classes would get. So a little bit of difference there, but that's going to go back to the Senate where it's expected to easily get voted up and sent to the governor. We also expect to see some more activity tomorrow since the Senate will be taking up those utility reform bills on special order and maybe possibly getting to the superintendent of education bill today since they are still in session. I can't really tell you what they're doing. It's right around 6:15 right now. Don't know if they've adjourned or not, but Senator Shane Massey did move to get that superintendent of education ballot referendum bill up before lawmakers today. So that could be today. It could also possibly be tomorrow. It just depends on how quickly those utility reform bills do move through the Senate tomorrow, because remember, they've been kind of pushing out these bills, one that would repeal the Baseload Review Act, one that would also create a consumer advocate position in the Department of Consumer Affairs. So a couple of different things that will be at play tomorrow. But remember, tomorrow is a very, very important day, both in the House and the Senate, because we need to see those bills move from second reading to third reading in order to get over to the hall, across the hallway actually, in order to make sure that they have a shot at becoming laws. So a critical day in the State House tomorrow for House and Senate lawmakers to make sure any potential bills that they might want to think could make it into law, that they send over immediately, because you have to have a second and a third reading. Second is critical, and you can't do both on the same day. So if they don't get that second reading on Wednesday, that bill is pretty much dead, unless, again, it is one of those VC summer related bills that can be taken up after 5 p.m. on Thursday. So that is, again, the last day of session, so 2 more days left up here at the State House. Of course, we expect to be covering the budget as it continues to work its way through the conference committee process. So plenty more to stay tuned with, and we'll be covering them, all that activity and more, both tomorrow and Thursday for you. So be sure to stick with ETV and follow us on our Facebook, YouTube, and my Twitter account at Gavin Jackson. And in all three of those outlets, we do show these video recaps live at 7 p.m. so you can catch them. And you can also find this video recap on SCE&G's website at scetv.org. And that's where you can also find the State House Daybook, where we outline what's going on up here at the State House every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. As you can imagine, things have kind of died down, so not too much information on there, but there's a lot of resources, a lot of details, and State House headlines on there for you to find out as well. You can also listen to the South Carolina Lead podcast. That's where I host journalists that cover the State House up here, and we get some more context and insight about what's going on up here at the major stories that we've been following. So that's easily found on your Apple iPod, your phone, your iPhone, by searching the podcast app South Carolina LED. And if you have a Google Android phone, you can easily just Google South Carolina Lead, and it will show up right there on your home screen. So easy enough to find us. And also listen to South Carolina Public Radio, where we provide updates every day about the news dealing in the state of South Carolina. So plenty of ways you can keep informed with SCE TV and South Carolina Public Radio. I'm Gavin Jackson here at the State House in Columbia.